Working people may soon benefit from a new era of clean electricity as the government today unveils reforms to the country's energy system.
They say it will make Britain's energy more secure and protect households from further cost spikes. But economists are warning bills will increase to sustain the green agenda. Well, joining us now is Energy Secretary Ed Miliband. Good morning to you. Where are you this morning?
Good morning, Kate. I'm at a wind turbine factory in Hull, which is employing 1,300 people. And honestly, Kate, you can see the future being built here. These enormous turbines, 108 metres long, these blades. It's fantastic to be here, and it's so exciting. And it's part of this new era of clean electricity, which we believe will be good for these kind of jobs, creating these kind of jobs, and people really want these well-paying jobs, but also give us the energy security we need as a country.
So, good for the planet, good for those that are getting work, but is it going to be good for the pocket in terms of energy bills? Economists would say it'll be more expensive. We know that you promised that these sort of measures could bring down bills by £300 by 2030. However, of course, the government has removed the winter payment of £300, so some people are worse off. When are we going to see results to bills coming down via these methods? And what are you going to do about the huge costs at the moment?
Well, let me confront that question head on, answer that question head on, Kate. The truth is that at the moment, we are dependent on fossil fuels and those international gas markets, because that's where much of our power comes from. And the problem about that is that we don't control those markets. It's the dictators like Putin. When he invaded Ukraine, prices shot up. Your viewers are paying the price. What clean, homegrown energy gives us is much greater assurance because we control the price of it. And we are confident it will lead to lower bills, even with the costs of building the new infrastructure we need, the infrastructure, the pylons, all of that we need to connect that green energy. And don't take my word for it, the National Energy System operator has said it will reduce the cost of electricity and can lead to lower bills. So it's going to take time because we've got to put up the wind turbines, build the grid, all of those things. It's not an overnight solution, but it is the way we get the energy security and lower bills that people want to see.
I think people see that. I think people just fear the short term. The Prime Minister's recently done his measurable milestones. What are your milestones on this? We know what you want to tackle for the planet, but when can we have cheaper bills and how can you help in the meantime?
Well, look, in terms of cheaper bills from this, it's going to take time. I'll just make no bones about it, because we've got to build that infrastructure. It's quite a big and challenging target we have, and it takes time to build this new infrastructure. But there are things we can do in the short term. So, for example, we're working with the energy companies so that they can help people. They're setting aside £500 million to help people in distress this winter in terms of debt or behind on their payments or people really facing the worst difficulties. We have a warm homes discount for 3 million people of £150. Now, this isn't enough. We want to do more, but obviously the nation's finances are really tight. But we want to do everything we can to bear down on those costs that people are facing and do everything we can to help.
We haven't had great news on the economy, have we? It's a third month of a shrinkage. It's small. It's a small amount this morning that's come out. And all of the government's plans are based on growth. Is your heart sinking, or did you expect this in the short term?
Well, look, it's 1 month's figures, Kate, and these figures bounce up and down.
Well, the last 3 months have seen it go down, haven't they? So I suppose what people are looking for is a trend up to have the foundation for the plans.
Well, let's see what happens. But look, my part in this as the Energy Secretary is to contribute to that growth mission. See, what's interesting about our clean electricity plans is not only can it lead to lower bills, but also £40 billion a year of mainly private investment in our energy infrastructure. And that's about hundreds of thousands of jobs, and that's absolutely about contributing to growth. I think the big change we've seen in relation to green issues is it's not just about saving the planet. Of course, that's important, but it's also crucially it's about how countries grow their economies. That's what's happening all around the world. There's a global race on for those good jobs of the future. We want that future built in Britain, and things like what's happening here at Hull, the carbon capture and storage plans that we've agreed this week that are going to lead to thousands of jobs, that is absolutely contributing to the growth and rising living standards that we need to see as a country.
OK. Ed Miliband, can we talk about Syria for a moment? Horrific news coming out of Syria even today as we see the consequences of Assad leaving. We're now getting to hear of the torture and some of the conditions that prisoners were allowed to be in. And we know that estimates of the death toll in that civil war were well over 600,000. You, when you were the leader of the opposition back in 2013, voted against and called for votes against military action against Syria back then. Knowing what we know now, do you regret that decision?
No, I don't. Assad was a brutal dictator, and it's horrific what he was doing. We knew at the time he was a brutal dictator. The question, Adil, on the table at the time was, do we bomb him? Now, I believe that after the war in Iraq, where hundreds of British troops died and thousands were injured, we should not commit British troops to combat unless we had a clear plan. What would it involve for Britain? What was our exit strategy, and how would we achieve our war aims? And I didn't believe the proposition David Cameron put on the table met that criteria. As for whether Assad would have fallen earlier, we know that Donald Trump, when he was president in the US in 2017 and 2018, also did take action to bomb Assad, which didn't happen in 2013, and Assad didn't fall. So I neither believed it was right for Britain, nor do I actually believe it would have hastened the end of Assad.
What about, is it right for Britain that we should now allow Shamima Begum, a British citizen, to come back to this country and face the law and face a court? Would you back that move?
Well, I think the government set out a clear position on that, and I don't think that's happening, and I'm not aware of that taking place.
Your brother, David Miliband, the CEO and president of the International Rescue Committee, thinks it's Britain's obligation to bring back Shamima Begum. Is he wrong?
Well, that's not the government's position. He's got his own role. That's not the government's position. That's not the stance we've taken.
But your brother is saying it should be the government's position.
Well, we don't agree on that question. I think that question has been settled on that issue.
OK. Let's talk about Gaza just very quickly, if I can. Again, when you were, in 2013, you were leader of the opposition, you said that David Cameron had failed to condemn, and I quote, the unacceptable and unjustifiable killings of civilians in Gaza, and you called for the government then to do more. A lot of people right now are saying the British government should do more. Benjamin Netanyahu has been... there's an arrest warrant for him from the ICC. A lot of people saying... experts are saying a genocide is taking place. Do you think your government is doing more? Because the Ed Miliband of 2013 may well say that they're not.
Well, look, I know from talking to David Lammy about this that we continue to work for the ceasefire that is required in Gaza. And look, we've got to remember the Hamas attack of October the 7th, which is where this began, was a brutal and appalling murder of Israeli citizens. It's also the case, though, that what we are seeing in Gaza is an unfolding tragedy. That's why we've said we will continue to work with all partners in the region for the ceasefire that is required. It's a tragic situation that the people of Gaza are facing, and I know that David Lammy is doing absolutely everything he can to get the enduring ceasefire that we need.
Now, figures have come out about how much people have been spending on refurbishing their offices. Mr. Miliband, yours is pretty pricey. It's one of the biggest. You spent more than £40,000 on your offices. What have you spent it on?
I've no idea, Kate.
That's honest.
You know, the first I knew about it was this morning when I got asked on another channel about it. So I'll get back to you.
You'll have to go back and check those books.
Well, hang on. I admire your honesty, but shouldn't you know the money that's being spent in your own office? I mean, we can laugh about it, but that's quite a serious point, isn't it?
Well, I think it's across the whole department, to be honest. And Adil, you know, look, my biggest responsibility is the nation's energy system, security of supply, people's bills, creating the good jobs we need as a country. I think, you know, I'll obviously check back now on what exactly this money was spent on. But I think if I spent my time measuring, you know, all of the refurbishments and taking charge of all the refurbishments, I'm not sure that is the biggest priority for the nation in terms of the big issues that your viewers are facing.
OK, I think you're going to go and make some calls and we might speak about it again. I was going to ask you about sandwiches and whether they're proper food because but you've had your own experiences with bacon sandwiches, Mr. Miliband, so maybe you don't want to go there.
I'm going to try and persuade Kemi Badenoch of the joys of a bacon sandwich, Kate.
OK, you're the man to do it. All right, good to talk to you this morning.